Chapter 3, establishing quick wins. Quick win is a highly visible solution to a business need. It should be done in the first 60 to 90 days. It has immediate benefit. It doesn't require a Herculean effort. Leadership agrees that it's something that needs to be done, and it pushes the business forward. The quick wins, they achieved widespread notice during the Jack Welch era at GE in the 80s. They were intended to empower employees to quickly fix problems, also focus on the things that impacted their ability to serve their customers or create new business value. Now, if this sounds vaguely familiar to a design thinking approach to problem solving, it's because it is. What they do. Quick wins provide you with you and the team with great momentum by driving early value. People on the team get motivated. You start to get into a rhythm with your team. Leadership begins to have confidence with you. Good news travels fast, and your team's reputation improves. And lastly, there's like a feel-goodiness that you have a victory under your belt. Now, some criteria. Now, please keep in mind, a quick win it's not about you. You're coming in at the end of the day to save everyone. You're not Gandalf at the end of Two Towers. It's about elevating the team. So work with them. Identify some problems together that need to be fixed. They should be low or no cost. They should be low or no risk. The scope should be really focused. You should have stakeholder buy-in, and there should be a strong confidence and consensus that it will add value and have a clear ROI. Now, the next thing is your transition plan. Some call this a 30, 60, 90-day plan. It should be high level, done in phases, about how you are going to approach your job. A transition plan increases your productivity. It's effective for illustrating how you think, tells how you're going to operationalize, and it's like a tangible document that you can give to people and they'll respond to. The first phase, your first 30 days or so, is pretty much your learnings. You're talking to people, you're fact-finding, you're identifying key stakeholders and potential quick wins. The second phase is your strategy development, identifying strengths and weaknesses, priorities, and long-term goals. You're hopefully by this point overachieving a little bit, and you're starting to contribute to the business. The last phase, your 90-day phase, is your execution. It should be known what you bring to the table. You're achieving your quick wins, your team is high performing, and you're being proactive about your role. Now, I know there's a lot of information on transition plans out in the interweb, but would it be important if I shared one or two that I've actually done? If that's yes, then just throw it in the chat and I'll put some with the materials so y'all can see what some of these look like. Okay.
I immediately had somebody say yes. Yeah, they're coming in. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Now, SMART goals. Now you have your transition plan. Goals are the things that you're focusing on. Most goals fail not because of a lack of effort, but because how they were framed. Now, I'll do the cognitive behavioral thing in a little bit, but high level, framing is the way your brain approaches a problem that increases the likelihood of a positive outcome. I like this particular frame, the SMART goal frame, because it's really productive for transition plannings. So anytime you find yourself starting a goal or struggling with one, use this technique. SMART. It stands for specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and timely. The more specific it is, the more you will do it. Measurable. How will you know, will this be successful? And, measurement is something really interesting in the design, product, and marketing world. You really need to on point about how your team, your business, your company measures success. Actionable. How are you going to take action against this? What's your plan? Do you have the resources? Do you have the budget? Do you have the headcount? Alignment with other business units? What are your gaps? Relevant. Relevant, how is this goal related to your role or your quick wins? During onboarding, you're going to be juggling a lot of priorities. Is this relevant to the success of your team? And timely, what's the time frame that you have to achieve this by? As designers, we all know if there's no deadline, things don't get done. When you approach goals this way, you are more likely to achieve them. Okay, so this is a point I have noted to pause, but Adam, I want you to clock watch to see if we have enough time.
Yeah, let's take, there was an interesting question that came up, and just tell me if this is going to be answered here. But there was a question that slipped in right as you started talking about inheriting a team that's not best for the company. If you get on and there's a team that just doesn't really fit with the organization, and perhaps maybe management kept them on for whatever reason.
Yeah.
How much time and effort is appropriate but not wasteful in trying to get them up to speed? And then there's kind of an ellipses on there of how should you deal with pressure from your manager and above to quickly manage out the underperformers that you inherited? Like, it's a political issue as well as like a very real, hey, they don't fit. What should we do?
All right. I always think it's productive to have those conversations collectively. Like, your team needs to be aware of what the context is. Like, you need to be talking to your manager and HR and leadership about what are the next steps. Like, what is the agreed upon approach of how we're going to handle this? Like, some organizations, you will have time for things. You may have 18 months. Some organizations, you may have 3. So that comes with understanding the culture. It's a good question. It happens a lot, but I'm a big fan of transparency and making sure everybody knows what's going on and everyone can plan. You are dealing with people's livelihoods, so it's important to be aware of that. At the end of the day, the company is going to do what's best for the company. So you can either figure out a way to change this team's positioning so it does add value, it fits into the ecosystem of the company, or you have to have hard conversations.
Yeah, that actually that resonates too with we had design leadership workshops in the designbetter.co series with Nia Bloom and Todd Zaki-Warfel. Both of them, this part came up, and to Andrew's point, to elaborate just a little bit, is having time frames. Taking like the smart frame that Andrew was just talking about and applying it to that situation is a great example of how to use it, right? It's having an open conversation of like, hey, here's the basics of each one of your functions that you need to be performing, and then give them a time frame. And that way, at the end of that cycle, you can come back together and say, okay, here's where you started. Did you make the changes that you needed to?
Yeah.
Yes or no? And try to make that as objective and measured as possible. And therefore, it will help you a lot more if you had a thing you can then bring up during that review and point to. And it should make your job quite a bit easier when you need to make that hard decision.
Yeah. Transparency, whenever like the big organization, your Fortune organizations, whenever there are changes coming, it's always helpful to have transparency. They're like, all right, we have 90 days to turn this around. Here are the metrics that we're going up against. And then if we don't meet that, this is the result of that. Clear communication, I think, is always good.